Welcome to Getting Started with QuickBase Archive. I'm assuming that from the QuickBase products page here that you've downloaded and installed QuickBase Archive as well as QuickBase ODBC for QuickBase. Once you've done that, we're going to go and log into QuickBase. Now, depending on the company you work for, the URL will be different. So if you work for a car company, it might be tesla.quickbase.com or might be acme.quickbase.com, but this will depend on your company. In my case, which is not going to be your case, it's QuickNect.quickbase.com. Now, we're going to need these two pieces of information later on. I'm going to log in with my email address and my password. And here we are on the QuickBase My Apps page. Now, we're going to dive into a project called AAA Project Manager. And here we have a contacts table that we're going to want to archive. Okay, so the next step is to go to the Start menu, click on All Programs, on QuickNect, and then QuickNect Archive. This will bring up the QuickNect Archive user interface. And here we have to supply our QuickBase credentials, the same ones that we logged into QuickBase with. Here we put in our QuickBase password. Here we need to enter in the QuickBase server. This is the same URL that we use to log into QuickBase. If we're a car company, this might be tesla.quickbase.com. If we're another kind of company, it might be acme.quickbase.com. But in this case, in my case, which is not going to be your case, it's QuickNect.quickbase.com. Now we're ready to press the List Tables button. And we can see the list of applications we have access to here. We can expand an application, see the tables there. And if I click on Contacts, I can list the reports and fields. Except I get this error message here. Now these error messages are worth reading because they generally tell you what needs to be done. Here we see that an application token must be supplied. So I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to switch back to our browser. And here we are still in the AAA Project Manager application. We're at the contacts table. I'm going to click on Home to bring us to the home page of the application. Then I'm going to click on Settings. Then I'm going to click on App Properties. And then I'm going to scroll down a little bit and click on Manage Application Token. Here we can create new application tokens as well as assign existing ones. There's already an application token assigned to this application, but I'm going to create a new one just for QuickNect Archive. And I'm going to call it QuickNect Archive. You can type anything you want here, it doesn't matter. It's whatever you like. And now we have two application tokens. I'm going to choose one of them. Either one will work. And I'm going to copy it to the clipboard. Now I'm going to go back to QuickNect Archive and I'm going to paste it in here. And now when I click on List Reports and Fields, we see the reports for that table as well as the fields. Now we don't want to archive all the text fields because if we blank them all out, we won't be able to tell one record from another, and we won't be able to determine which one we want to retrieve from the archive. A good one to allow us to differentiate records is the email address, so I'm going to put that over there. But now I've noticed that the notes field doesn't appear here, and the notes field is the one that's going to give us the most benefit if we archive it because it typically has lots of text in it. Why is that? Well, let's switch back over to the application and let's click on the contacts table, and we go to Settings and Fields, and then we look here through the list of fields, and sure enough, here's the notes field. Well, what is it about this that makes it invisible to QuickNect Archive? Well, the reason is that it's an append-only field. This property here is turned on. We have to turn that off, and we'll save those changes. And now we can go back to QuickNect Archive, and we press this button again, and sure enough, the notes field appears. Now, the same thing happens with required fields. For instance, if the phone number had its required property checked, we wouldn't have seen it in the QuickNect Archive interface until we uncheck it here and save those changes. So that's another thing to look out for, required fields as well as append-only fields. Now I'm going to scooch the email address field back over there, and then I'm going to see how much of a benefit would I get. if I were to archive this. If I click that button, it tells me I have to choose a report. So I'm going to click on the to be archived report. And what this does is it allows you to control which records are going to be archived. You can pick a report here, and only the records that appear in the report will be archived. So I'm going to try again now to see how much space I can save. And it says I can save about 1,566 bytes in 6 records. Okay, so I'm satisfied with that, and I'm going to click the button here that does it for real. And momentarily, we'll get a little pop-up that tells us that the archiving process is finished. Here we go. Great. So now I'm going to go back to QuickBase, and I'm going to go exit the settings for that table, and I'm going to look at the reports. I'm going to click on all contacts, and here we can see that there's no information in these records. The email address has been left behind, and we have 2 new fields. This is a reference field that ties these records over to a new table called QuNect archive for, and then the DB ID, which is the unique identifier for this table. And we also have a button here that allows us to retrieve it from the archive. Retrieving from the archive is as easy as pressing this button. You get a little pop-up, you say yes, you get another little pop-up that says your records have been restored, and the page automatically refreshes, and then you can see your information right there. There are 2 more things that we need to do. When you go look at this record here, an archived record, and you're in edit mode, it's tempting perhaps for users not to press this button, but to try to start filling in this information. And we want to prevent that from happening. So what we need to do is we need to click on the customize the form, and all the fields that are archived are in this section heading here. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a rule that says when the QuNect archive reference field is not blank, we want to hide that section, because that will prevent anybody from entering in that information. Now I hit save, and now as you can see, we see the email address, but we don't see the rest of the form. If I press the retrieve from archive button, I get my little pop-up here, and then we can see the rest of the form. So that way you don't end up having people entering information that is then overwritten by pressing the retrieve from archive button. Now one last thing we have to clean up, and that is that we need to go to settings for the contacts table, we need to go to fields, and then we need to scroll down here to the notes field, go into its properties, and we want to turn back on the append only, the logging feature, so that we're back the way we were before we started the archive process. So that's it for getting started with QuNect Archive. Thank you very much.